Black Lives Matter murals continue to get defaced and destroyed across the nation as BLM support implodes. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest examples of BLM murals getting defaced and erased, how city officials are recognizing that they're absolutely powerless to do anything about it, and how support for BLM has fallen dramatically to an all-time low. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone, patriots all across the globe. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. A warm welcome to all of our first-time viewers. We post 2 videos a day, analyzing current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends, so we can all live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel, where each and every day we together celebrate the inevitable collapse of left-wing globalism and the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age. Now, before we get into it, make sure to click on that link below. Head on over to my special website from my Patriot Food Supply. You know them well. As we saw with the whole pandemic insanity, we cannot wait for an emergency to happen before we respond to one. And no one makes preparing for an emergency more ridiculously easy and affordable than my Patriot Supply. Gang, they're simply the best. Their food kits last up to 25 years in storage. They include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. And best of all, they've got a guarantee policy that will absolutely knock your socks off. And if you act now, right now, you can save $100 off a full 4-week emergency food supply when you click on that link below to my special website. You heard that right, 100 smackers off, so do not wait. I've got my food supply. Make sure you get yours. Click on that link below or go to preparewithsteve.com and save $100 off your very own 4-week emergency food supply today. Emergency? What's an emergency? All right, let's dive right in here. The defacing and destroying of BLM murals and monuments has become, well, nothing short of a trend across the country. We first reported on the beginnings of this trend, I believe, back in July after BLM murals started popping up everywhere. And of course, we've seen them splashed across NBA courts and NFL fields and Major League Baseball pitcher mounds. It's a rather odd phenomenon given BLM's propensity towards vandalizing and destroying and desecrating monuments. And so you would think, given that propensity towards destroying the monuments and the murals, BLM activists would think twice before erecting their own. But alas, such consistency does not appear to be operative among BLM activists. And so they've been reduced to shock and disbelief that anyone would ever dare to deface and desecrate their own murals and monuments. But that is precisely what's happening all across the nation. Americans are rebelling against BLM Marxists all across the country. And one of the ways that revolt is manifesting itself is in the destruction and defacing of BLM murals. Let's look at some of the latest examples. And keep in mind, these are just collectively the tip of the iceberg of what's really nothing less than, we might say, an epidemic of BLM defacements. In Pennsylvania, a number of BLM murals have been ruined. In Pittsburgh, police are searching for 2 individuals who were captured on video shooting paintballs at a Black Lives Matter mural in downtown along the Allegheny River. This is not the first time the mural has been defaced. In fact, it appears to be becoming a rather common occurrence. In Harrisburg, a Black Lives Matter mural painted on the side of a Midtown building was vandalized just the other night. Again, in this case, no suspects have yet been apprehended. But obviously, this is not just going on in Pennsylvania. In Brooklyn, a BLM monument in the Windsor Terrace section of the city was destroyed. The words Black Lives Matter were covered in purple paint, and another section of the mural depicting clasping hands, one black and the other white, was scribbled over. In Kansas City, one of the 6 BLM street murals has been defaced. The words Black Lives Matter were marred by black tire marks and white paint streaked over the words. In Norwalk, Connecticut, a mural that read Black Lives Matter had an O drawn in front of lives, so it now reads Black Olives Matter. It's creative, I'll give them that. And at UConn, over at the in Storrs, the University of Connecticut, a rock with a BLM mural painted on it was recently defaced. Again, no suspects charged. In Springfield, Massachusetts, a BLM mural painted on a street near Springfield City Hall was vandalized for the 2nd time in a week, again with thick tire tracks destroying the giant yellow letters. In New York, in downtown Manhattan, the far-left mayor Bill de Blasio's attempt at provoking President Trump with his painting BLM on the street across from Trump Tower was assaulted yet again. The New York Times is absolutely livid over the fact that the mural has been vandalized for like the 5th time in just days. I think it's been even more than that. Every single week, this is the New York Times here, every single week, they're so mad. They're so mad. They're so insensitive. This glorious monument to social justice that, of course, was painted just to antagonize and smirk at President Trump, being painted directly in front of Trump Tower. But the left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at the New York Times, they are absolutely incensed. They are livid that this majestic mural has been utterly defaced and vandalized time and time again. In fact, things are so bad when it comes to protecting, preserving this mural that the ultra-left New York Mayor Bill de Blasio painted. He is now paying police officers to guard the mural overtime. And of course, the irony of such a move by the self-anointed BLM mayor could not be more stark. Remember, not only did Blasio propose to cut $1 billion from the NYPD budget, devastating the morale of police officers throughout the city and its 5 boroughs. Not only did he do that, but shootings in the city have surged by more than 358% since mid-June when compared to the same time last year. That's an almost 400% increase in shootings throughout the city. So there's a double irony here. Not only do you have de Blasio redefining law and order by giving priority to a stupid mural painted to provoke President Trump while the city experiences an unprecedented crime wave, but then when it actually comes to protecting and enforcing that redefined law and order, de Blasio ends up turning to the very NYPD that he so intentionally crippled with the $1 billion in cuts. So, I mean, it's pathetic, but alas, no matter how many police officers they put on detail to guard this mural, it just keeps getting vandalized. But perhaps the most humorous and ironic incident in all this comes from Redwood City in the Bay Area of California. I mean, this is impressive. We've talked about this in another video. What happened is that a Redwood City resident got permission from city officials to paint a Black Lives Matter sign on their Broadway street, right? And of course, the left-wing nuts in charge there, they were absolutely all for it. The city even supplied the paint. And so another city resident, a real estate attorney named Maria Rutenberg, thought to herself, hey, wait a minute. If our street is now becoming a public forum, then can I paint a sign right next to this BLM sign? Can I paint MAGA 2020? And so she went to her city officials and requested to paint the sign. And rather than give her permission to do it, these cowards, these city officials, they just decided to erase the Black Lives Matter sign. They actually removed it in the middle of the night so as not to provoke any protests. So the Black Lives Matter sign is now gone from the streets of Redwood City, all because a Trump supporter stood up and said, hey, if you're going to turn our streets into a public forum, I want my interests represented as well. And the city caved. They completely backed down, right? Now, all of this is happening at the same time that support for BLM is completely imploding. It's literally in a free fall. But first, we, of course, are in an election year. And of all our presidential elections, few were as stunning as the election of Donald Trump just 4 years ago. But how could so many of our elites, from the mainstream media to our political pundits, how could so many of them been wrong in 2016 and still not get it in 2020? Well, that's what my book, President Trump and Our Post-Secular Future, is all about. In its pages, you'll discover precisely what our political class missed and continue to miss, that the election of Donald Trump was nothing less than a symbol of the end of secular globalism as our dominant political paradigm. And so throughout this book, you're going to discover the various ways in which Trump's nationalist populism is redefining politics quite literally for the foreseeable future. And to make it even better, for a limited time, just for you, you can get my book, President Trump and Our Post-Secular Future, absolutely free as an ebook download by clicking on the link in the pinned comment section below. That's right, absolutely free, but it's a limited time offer, so do not wait. Click on that link in the pinned comments section and get your free copy of my book, President Trump and Our Post-Secular Future, today. All right, gang, so like I said, support for BLM is in a literal free fall as we speak. Look at this. The Daily News UK is reporting that support for BLM has dropped to just 39% from a high of 54%. It's almost a 20-point drop in a matter of weeks. In terms of the breakdown around racial demographics, we're seeing a drop in support literally across the board. As far as whites are concerned, only 35% of white Americans approve of the protests, while 50% disapprove. Again, by comparison, just a few months back in June, 53% of whites approved of BLM protests. So support among whites has dropped a comparable 20 points. It was worse among Latinos. Only 31% of the protests, and yes, I feel ridiculous even referring to them as protests, but I have to report the survey in terms of how they put it there in the poll. Only 31% of Latinos support the protests as compared to 44% who supported it in June. And even among blacks, support for these protests has eroded from 81% support in June to today just 63%, almost a 20-point margin, to a drop. And Civics, which is a website that tracks trends over the course of weeks and months, they found that opposition against BLM just keeps ticking up. Opposition has surged by 10 points over the last several weeks now to 40%, and support has dropped from a high 53% to the current 48%. Overall support for BLM is now under 50% in virtually every survey out there, and it's steadily dropping as these studies corroborate. And so really it's no wonder that more and more of these murals are actually getting defaced. It seems to be an expression, obviously, the backlash against the vandalism and the destruction and that BLM unleashed upon our nation's cities and its monuments over the summer. And while Americans were fully willing to do whatever needs to be done to assure that every citizen feels like their rights are being protected and that there's equal justice for all, they have certainly lost their patience with the constant and incessant left-wing virtue signaling and never-ending social disruption in so many of our cities. They've had it with calls to destroy our system. And as BLM overplays its hands, it's only going to see its popularity continue to implode. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. And you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on how the Democrats' mail-in ballot scheme is backfiring big time, all as Trump's poll numbers are surging. You're not going to want to miss this, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.